our pot dealer came over, and we bought some pot, and he said, I have something new. He says, I have some LSD 25. Do you want to try some? And we said, yeah, sure. So we each took this little sugar cube and popped this little sugar cube. And I remember that an hour later, I was saying, I don't know about you guys, but this drug does nothing for me. There was a knock at the door, and I opened the door, and I swung the door open, and I remember it was that moment that I saw Cass, this vision of white pleated skirt, a pink Angora sweater, her hair was in a flip, and she had eyelashes out here. She was quite a sight. And it was that moment that this drug hit me.
That night was like the mamas and papas were formed. Not musically. Something else happened.
While the mamas and the papas were not even an idea yet, the Lovin' Spoonful had secured a residency at a Greenwich Village landmark, the Night Owl Cafe. But it wasn't easy getting the right audience in.
Just guys playing chess and beatnik kind of women with ironed hair, and it was a strange audience. And I remember, and as a matter of fact, Do You Believe in Magic to some degree commemorates the night that we looked out in the audience and there was this beautiful 16-year-old kid with long curly brown hair dancing in the middle of the audience. And it was like, yes, it's starting.
Do you believe in magic, in a young girl's heart? How the music can free her whenever it starts, and it's magic.
We just loved playing. It was like, we really just loved doing it. And you did, it's like sex. I mean, you just said, boy, you can't get enough, you know? And then it's like, whoa, your dick falls off. No, but it was like, you know, it was great.
Despite creating a buzz, the Spoonful sound was a little too new for most major record companies.
We couldn't get a deal with the major labels, which kind of shocked us, and yet we were trying for some new territory. It was folky, it was picky, and yet it was rock and roll.
I mean, we really sounded like nobody else, I think. I mean, that's, you know, I really feel that, you know. I think the first album would bear that out. That's, whether you like it or you don't like it, you don't say, oh, gee, it sounds like, you know, we sounded like ourselves, which is what most bands don't do. I mean, it's good to sound like yourself.
The Spoonful did get a deal in the end. While they were forging ahead, John and Michelle Phillips, along with Denny Doherty, had no immediate prospects and decided to get out of New York for a while.
I wanted a vacation. I felt that I needed a vacation. And I just asked that night, I said, can't we go someplace warm? And it was the middle of winter.
The Journeymen had done all their contracts, and there's no more. Nobody wants to use it anymore. But so John had saved about $9,000 in cash. It was in a gray Samsonite suitcase in the back room. And then the Journeyman's American Express card.
When I left the group, John took our American Express card, which said The New Journeyman, for which we were responsible individually and severally. That's the legal phrase. And he took 20 people down to the Virgin Islands on the card.
We went over to 3rd Avenue and bought war surplus tents and cots and stoves and all kinds of stuff. And there was a national park. We found out there was a national park over in St. John's, the next island over from St. Thomas.
And I would get calls from the Treasury Department. They'd say, Mr. Brickman, this is Mr. Feeney with the Treasury Department, and we just wondered if you knew where Mr. Phillips was, because he's run up a bill of $31,000. Of course, I knew where he was, and I said, gee, I don't know.
John, Michelle and Dennis soon got into the island lifestyle. A month later, Cass turned up. They started singing together, but there is debate about who wanted who in the band.
John had the sound of a trio in his mind. He couldn't get a fourth, especially a girl, especially a 300-pound girl who was, hi, I'm here to eat the world. Hi, how are you? That's, you know.
Denny and John will tell you that Cass really wanted to be in the group and they didn't want her in the group, but that is not true. My recollection is just the opposite. They wanted her in the group, but she was reluctant. Cass had a career of her own.
Everybody's getting fat except Mama Cass.
The group idled away several months on the island, practicing their harmonies and writing, but in the end the money ran out, so much so that they couldn't even afford the air ticket home.
So we had $20. And John said, well, there's only one thing we can do. We have to go to the tables. I said, that's the one thing we can do with $20 is go to the, gamble it? He said, well, we can't even eat on $20. He says, we might as well just have no money. This is our last hope, is the tables. And I had never played craps before, and they gave me the dice, and I started to roll them.
If you get 3, 4 times at the dice, that's good. You can make some money. She rolled the dice 18 times. The place was going bananas.
And we had more than enough money for all of us to fly home first class.
They returned to New York, but had no deal or work to look forward to. The Lovin' Spoonful had released their first single. They were playing at a strip club in San Francisco, hoping the record would take off.
We would play for the stripper, and then we'd have a set of our own. And there was just no way to really calculate how people's attention would wane when Topless Maria left the stage. But it was within weeks of that San Francisco radio and Los Angeles radio began to pick up on the Spoonful records.
Feet start tapping and you can't seem to find how you got there, so just blow your mind.
That's the dream, you know. You don't care whether you get 10 points from royalties, or it's not even a consideration. It's just that you make a record, that you're considered in the group of people that are record makers.
The mid-60s was a period of social turmoil in the US, and folk rock was beginning to reflect this. People were questioning old certainties. Barry Maguire had started his career singing in the traditional folk band, the New Christy Minstrels, but felt uncomfortable in it.
Well, now I told my mama on the day I was born, don't you cry when you see I'm gone.
I just got tired of singing Green Green and Christy Minstrel songs. You know, I got tired of wearing a little button-down collar, and you know, and things were changing. Social awareness was changing. In my own life, things that I used to think were important weren't important anymore. And there were deeper meanings, there were deeper issues to be dealt with.
Now there ain't nobody in the whole wide world gonna tell me how to spend my time.
He quit the Minstrels, but was down on his luck.
I got like $3, $4 is all the money I got left, because you spend it as fast as you make it, you know. And I'm walking by a record store and I hear Green Green coming out of the record. Green Green is green. They say, it's me, my voice. And I got $3. There's my voice coming. And right at that instant, a convertible pulls up to the stop sign, and it's, now that the ladder of life has been strung, a chimney. And it's my voice coming, chim chim chiree. And I got 2 songs in it. I got $3. And I said, this is a script in a movie. Don't kill yourself, Uncle Fred. The show is a hit.
Maguire hung out with LA folk rockers and ran across record producer Lou Adler, who offered him a recording session.
We did 2 songs. The 3rd song wasn't working out right. We only had a 3-hour recording session. And Lou says, this song is not happening. He said, well, let's do something else. And I said, well, let's do that Eva Destruction tune.
Eastern world, it is exploding, violence flaring, bullets loading. They're old enough to kill, but not for voting. It don't believe in war, but once that gun gets holding, and even the Georgia River has bodies floating. But you tell me over and over and over again.
That was on a Thursday. Well, by Monday morning, the song was cut, pressed, and picked to hit on KFWB. And by the end of the 2nd or 3rd week, it was just went to the top, knocked Help out of the #1 spot. And And that was it. It was just a scary event.
Eve of Destruction, a protest song, became a massive hit, despite many radio stations banning it. Back from the Virgin Islands, but with no work, Cass Elliot headed out to California.
I think she was so disheartened by the way, she was having such a great time in the Virgin Islands, and here she was. Now she wanted to just change everything and go to California. And she was pissed off at everybody. I think she was pissed off at John and pissed off at Denny and pissed off at me. And so she left, and we didn't know where she had gone. But I begged them, John and Denny, to go to California. And by this time, things were happening out here. There was this big shift.
John, Michelle and Denny decided to follow Cass and try their luck on the burgeoning West Coast folk rock scene.
The only person that we knew we might be able to stay with was Barry McGuire. So we went to Barry's apartment, knocked on the door, and Cass answered it. And Cass was staying with him. So we asked him if we could stay with him too.
And Denny and Michelle and John were sitting on the floor singing, and Cass was singing along with them, and I thought she was part of the group.
So we went to see Lou Adler, and I remember this distinctly. We had to convince Cass to come with us. And she said, well, I'll sing for the audition, but I'm not going to sing with you guys. And we said, yeah, okay, well, just come with us and sing for Lou. And the next day, he said, we sang everything. We sang the first album to him, basically. And he said, why don't you guys come back tomorrow at around 3? We went back there. They had contracts all over the floor. And you've never seen a girl pull out a pen faster than Cass Elliot. She was always a job, a real paying job. Okay, she was a member of the Mamas and the Papas as of that moment.
He says, well, do you guys have any money? No, they were broke. He says, well, maybe you can sing background vocals on McGuire's album here and to get some money till we can cut your album. And I'd heard California Dreamin', I loved it, and so I recorded it. And they did all the background vocals on it.
And I remember Lou took John out into the hallway down at Western Studios, and he said, we're not giving this to Barry. He says, this is a hit. This is not Barry's. He says, this is yours.
The Mamas and Papas version of California Dreaming was released. It was about to become a huge hit.
We were driving up Laurel Canyon in our 1959 Buick convertible, and it came on, da 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 da. We were howling all the way up to the top of Laurel Canyon.
And I didn't know till years later, until I got a CD, and I put the CD in. It was my son's CD player, and one track wasn't working, and only the left channel was working. And I heard my voice on the track. They didn't quite erase it all, and I heard, as I said, all the leaves, and then it's gone. And I went, that's my track. They used my track, and they never paid me for it.
While the Mamas and Papas were having their first hit, the Lovin' Spoonful, fueled by the songwriting talents of John Sebastian, were enjoying an incredible run of hit singles.
So nice, I would have liked you anyway. If you had just looked once or twice, you're gonna haunt the right away.
I'm not the first songwriter to tell you that it isn't the words or the tune that comes first, it's the telephone call. The majority of the thing was on me, but then this odd other effect of everybody in the band feeling like, should I be writing tunes? And once the royalty checks began to come in, and there was this disparity, then everybody began to say, I should be writing.